Hey guys, I've been accepted to this incredible opportunity for a literary workshop in the US. It's gonna be in a month, and the catch is I don't have a US visa. So I'm going to fly down from Beijing to Singapore to apply for a US visa next week, and I want to take you with me on this adventure. Join me on this incredible episode of my life, and let's see if I can turn this first step towards my dream of becoming a writer into a reality. This is B, and I'm here in Beijing in one of my favorite parks to share something hallucinating that has happened in my life these days. As some of my friends know, I've always loved storytelling. Storytelling has been at the core of my being since forever. I love stories. I see the world, the people, science, and business as stories to explore, unravel, and decipher. This is also one of the reasons why I started this channel because I feel like I have so many stories I want to share. So just imagine the joy I felt when I got an email informing me that I had been accepted at one of the prestigious literary workshops in the US. But here's the catch: when I got to work and I started to talk to people telling them that I need to go to the US, I realized just a small detail, which is I don't have a US visa. I also just realized that I never actually knew how difficult getting a US visa is. And also, just to add to how simple my life has always been, Romania had been introduced on the visa waiver program in January. Everyone was happy, everyone was celebrating, only to be removed from the visa waiver list a month ago. Just about the perfect time to give me this challenge. That's when I started to read about how hard it is to get a US visa, but also how time consuming. And that's when I got panicked. The more I read, the more panicked I got. After I called the call center and I asked about the waiting times, I discovered that in order to get an interview for the visa in Beijing, it takes about 1.5 months. I gotta be in US in about a month. I then checked the waiting time for Romania, thinking that, okay, I am crazy enough about this opportunity to fly back home 15 hours, apply for a visa there, and get it. However, even there, it takes about 15 days to get the interview, so still not good enough. I checked again for cities like Seoul, which are just an hour away, and I thought it might be a good opportunity. 15 days waiting time there too. Then another question of panic, guys. Can you even apply for a US visa in a country where you don't have residency? Well, you can. God bless America, I guess, for this. But also, guys, God bless Singapore. During my panicked research, I discovered that actually Singapore has established this special overseas channel to apply for US visa. So there are people literally flying in Singapore just to apply for the US visa, and you don't have to be a resident in Singapore to do this. Everything is super digitalized and efficient. So once you make your online application, you submit your form, you pay the visa fee, and then you can book your appointment through their online schedule. And the interview is as quickly as in about a week's time. So I applied online and I booked an appointment for Tuesday morning. But this is not the end of the story because I live in Beijing, right? I have a team retreat on Monday. I'm going to leave my team retreat at 5:30 p.m., get to the airport, have a long, almost 11-hour flight to Singapore with a layover in Shanghai. I land in Singapore at about 6 a.m. and I have my interview at the US Embassy at 11 a.m. Will I make it? Guys, stay tuned. Root for me as we embark on this journey, and let us hope the end of this video is successful and full of happiness and joy, and it will mark the beginning of my travel plans for the US. First time. I am checking in from a beautiful park, as you can see, in Beijing. This is one of the places where I decided that I'm going to write the book that I submitted for review for this workshop in the US. So it's only symbolic that my conversation about getting a US visa is happening here. As some of you might know, I am not a writer professionally. I work in investments, I work in development. However, a year ago, when I sat down with myself and I was writing in my journal about my vision for the next 10 years, I decided that it's time to finally dedicate the time to also become the writer. Something that I always wanted to do since I was a student in secondary school and I wrote my first book. Ever since my Romanian teacher had noticed my talent and really encouraged me to go study literature. However, back then and in Eastern Europe in general, becoming a writer is not necessarily a dream career and something that will feed you or offer you a great living. I never regret the path that I took because honestly, storytelling and writing have been indispensable tools in my life so far and in my career. And my career has fueled me with so much inspiration and has taken me across the world. And I think before becoming a writer, I really needed to experience life in all of its dimension. And I think even if I had to choose, I would still have different types of professions and jobs that will actually help me live life in a way that will enable me to write about real life and not imagine it. Since that moment when I decided to become a writer, I made very pragmatic decisions. So I moved places in order to save up time, but also I decided that I'm going to have dedicated writing slots every morning, every evening, in the weekends, sacrificing some time with my friends, never sacrificing workouts, of course. Really proving it to myself that if my dream is important enough, I'm going to do what it takes to turn it into a reality. I also stopped pursuing perfection and decided to take small steps every day, not to write perfect pieces, but just to write. Then in January, when I had written enough for this initial book, I made a list of the different competitions out there. This is how I came across this workshop. And I just said, I'm going to give it a try because I never once believed they would pick me. I only believed in the authenticity of the feelings I was trying to get through with my work and of their usefulness to so many people out there because my writing is about real feelings and life experiences, which I think will resonate with so many people out there and might suit them, might become a good companion through those hard, difficult moments. So that was my intention, not to get a spot in the workshop, but to really share, finally share, a piece of what I personally found valuable and what I wanted to give back in a way. I also just decided that I'm only going to have 4 days to finish that manuscript and to submit it in time. So whatever degree of quality I had achieved in those 4 days, it would be enough. And I would stop thinking about how to improve it and make it perfect. It would just have to be good enough. And that's what I did. And I submitted it. And then I forgot about it. And then 3 months later, I got the information that I was on the waiting list. And that was also good enough for me until I got on the participant list. They initially told me that I was put on a wait list, and that was already pretty amazing for me because this is my first literary competition ever. It's competition in English, which is my second language. And there are probably people there who have much more experience and maybe even specialized studies in this field. So for me, It was already an incredible achievement to even be considered on the wait list and to be told that the jury has enjoyed my work. When I got that initial email, I was partly disappointed, partly because I expected it. I was just proud that I had been appreciated and that I made a small step towards my dream of becoming a writer. However, on Wednesday at 3:30 a.m., I suddenly woke up in the middle of the night. I took my phone out from the bed covers and I saw just then the email notification with the information that I've been accepted in the title. So for a moment, it just felt like a dream. It was a bit hazy. I didn't really understand what was happening. But by the time I realized, my heartbeat went like crazy. I couldn't fall asleep back. I just started to message people to tell everyone that it's happening. I've been accepted. I'm going to make a huge investment in my dream. And I had decided on that moment that even though the workshop is pretty expensive, it's going to be the first time I'm going to invest in a dream through a form of education. Of course, I jumped out of the bed. I walked around the house. Then I sat at my desk and I started to write down those initial emotions in my journal, compared a bit the emotions of that day with the emotions of that day a year ago. And it was crazy to see what was happening back then when I had just decided that I want to become a writer and that I will dedicate time every day to this dream, and to see that this competition is now happening. Again, incredible. If all my documents are all right, if my motivation is clear enough and convincing for the US officer, then I hope I'm going to get my visa in about a week. And then I can be back to prepare all the other admin stuff for this workshop to happen. And that would mean that I would be in the US at the end of June. But I'm going to take you with me through this crazy US visa application adventure. I live in Beijing, right? I have a team retreat on Monday.
So this is why probably
I'm going to leave my team retreat at 5:30 p.m. Get to the airport, have a long, almost 11-hour flight with the layover in Shanghai. We got to Shanghai and we're about to transfer. There are 2 hours to go before getting on a flight to Singapore. So yeah, I'm flying from Beijing to Singapore on a flight with a layover because I'm that crazy to make this workshop happen. I land in Singapore at about 6 a.m. and I have my interview at the US Embassy at 11 a.m. Will I make it? Stay tuned. Hey, it's 9:30 a.m. I barely slept. I landed at 5 a.m. and I'm ready for my interview. Hi. And now it's really frustrating because we go back to managing emotions and expectations. I guess every time someone actually holds out a hand for you, you might start to give that hand too much of an importance and forget that you need to recenter and realize that whatever happens to that helpful hand, you are capable to stand on your own and to make your dream happen with or without that hand. So, what I'm trying to do right now is to be as excited as possible about this opportunity, but also try to understand that no matter what happens with the visa process, if I get it, if I don't, no matter what happens at the workshop, if it will be breakthrough in terms of connections and in terms of how I can push my book forward towards publication. No matter what happens, I will still make this book happen, and the next and the next and the next, because I decided that I want to be a writer, and I decided that every day I'm going to be living this identity. I got it! I got it, guys! I flew down here to Singapore to apply for the US visa, and I got it, or I should get it. The officer asked me, why am I going to a literary workshop in the US when I'm an investor? And yeah, why? Because writing has been my passion since I was 16. I got super stressed. It's much more stressful than you can imagine. You're not individually in a room for a typical interview, and they're asking so many questions, one after the other. There are people who are rejected before that. So when he just handed me this, I was so relieved. So this was the adventure. Now I need to submit those two other manuscripts that are pending on my to-do list, and also go back to work, of course, because I'm working. So thank you for sticking with me, and let's see when I get my passport back, and let's go back to Beijing and get ready for the workshop.